Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Monday night, 9:30, something like that. I don't even know. I'm going to tell you right now, this video that you're about to watch, and I'm about to create, freewheeling as I usually do, there is a word I would use for it, but I try to keep this like a PG channel, right? You know, family friendly. You can throw your kids down and they can learn about tools and develop expensive habits they shouldn't have at a young age, whatever it may be. But yeah, the word starts with cluster, and the end of it is not bomb. And there's a story behind it. It's not a good story. It's not a funny story. It's not particularly entertaining, but I do think it is relatable. And whether you're sitting here, you're somebody like myself, you chronicle things you bring in to try out or showcase, or you just buy tools because you want to try them out. You don't make videos, don't make posts about them somewhere. You're just going to use the frickin' thing, or you just want it. Maybe you collect them, maybe you use them, maybe you're going to abuse them. Whatever the case may be, we all buy things that we bring in. And usually you have a strategy, you know, sort of a set plan. And that's how I operate. That's how I try to operate. That's why we do timestamps. That's why we do links. I don't make anything off of that at all. It's always there for your convenience. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't even know if I'm going to bother to link this stuff. And it's not for any of those reasons above. This stuff came from so many different places. It's kind of hard to keep track of. Maybe when I'm editing, I'll have a wind of energy and just go ahead and do it. But basically, what you need to know, I'm extremely busy at work, ridiculously busy. We had the whole thing where the world shut down for a long time, and you know, people got to build hot rods and discover, you know, they liked Zen gardening or had a taste for asparagus or something. I never had that. I worked that entire time. I'm still working, and I'm working like, you know, 12 plus hours a day, and it gets pretty crazy. And we're kind of short-handed now, and so it's even worse. There's like more on your table, and you don't know how the table is even supporting it. And ultimately, some of this stuff I just really need to get to work, and some of it I have just kind of given up on, or the places I've bought from have given up on it. And you know, when the people that were going to make money off of you have given up, that it's bad. So let me kind of put this in a nutshell. I place these orders, and sometimes not everything's in stock, right? And it's supposed to come, you know, usually like, hey, 2 to 3 weeks, or you'll ask, and it's like, oh, probably next week, 7 to 10 days. And sometimes that ship sails, and it goes across the ocean, and on its return voyage, it sinks, and it doesn't come back. And they don't bother to tell anything about that to you or the vendor or anything like that. And it turns into these crazy things, and then you start getting these emails. Some people will cancel your order and never tell you. Other places will pester you continuously to make sure you still want the said item. And even though you go out of your way and explicitly state time after time, yes, I want this item, and you get so tired of the emails questioning if you still want your back-ordered items that you just finally tell them, there's no need to ask me, I want this. It doesn't matter when it comes. It was a great deal, and I'm content with it. I will wait. Whatever the time frame, I will wait. And then you usually, you know, a couple weeks later, get another email, and then ultimately it turns out they just cancel the order. So we're just going to jump in here. This is very important to me. I'm needing it badly. We're down to a Thorensen, if anyone's familiar with that brand, that I can find. And, this glorious thing right here is a Wright Grip 2.0. This is the 1 1/8". It's very important to me because it does 3/4 hardware, and I use a lot of 3/4 hardware. And, if you recall, with our Wright wrench upgrade, right, we kind of brought in the basics, you know, at work. You could get by like your bread and butter stuff, 7/16, half, 9/16, 3/4, of course 15/16, and 1 1/8". This is kind of the upper echelon, right, of what I do outside of weird machine repairs and stuff. So 1 1/8, very important. This was ordered. The other one that was important, 7/8. It's a deal, you know, I use it for 1/2 inch, you know, flare nuts, so it uses quite a bit. It's also important. That's one of the items that just, they gave up on it. Time after time, I said, yes, I'll wait. And they have given up. I believe that vendor was Zoro. And this stuff, typically like this thing, drop shipped from Wright. Another wrench I picked up from Zoro for a great price that actually came, drop shipped from Wright. It's one of those types of a deal. And the 7/8, I don't know what the deal is, but apparently I'm not getting it anytime soon because they canceled the order. So at some point in time, I'll try to pick it up. but we're showcasing this guy. This is, of course, a very large wrench. Not huge, but for, you know, the average person, maybe if you're tooling around on cars or something, it's a pretty decent sized wrench. Some of you balk at that as you work on heavy equipment and machinery, but hey, think broader scope here. And if I can find a price, maybe I'll mention it, but we got a really good deal. And again, that's why I wanted to wait for the 7/8. But I gotta have that, and I gotta have it tomorrow, so we're gonna just run with that. Right here, and I'm not using that punny or anything, this is a Wright 3/8 by 1. I would assume that I was picking this up to one of two things: complete a little socket organizer, because the 1-inch peg would drive me crazy, even though I don't use a 1-inch, even though I know you're going to come in and say it's a filter nut, which is true. But I kind of think I actually ordered 1 1/8 inch. I think I was like really happy because I had found 1 1/8 inch with 3/8 drive, which is kind of rare. And one of those two things, I've slept not much since then, but it's here now, and we're just going to roll with it, literally. We're just going to roll that out of the picture because I need, you know, some semblance of sanity in my little life here. Great sockets Wright makes. Speaking of sockets right here, pretty sure this would be a Zoro deal as well. This one will take out of the bag. This is quarter drive, and going with the, hey, let's complete a socket set. I know that's what this was. This is 5/8. 9/16 is very important to me. 5/8, not so much, especially in quarter drive, but MTS has the peg, and the peg would drive me nuts if it was not populated. Proto, for what it's worth, I can't seem to find the deep socket anymore. And 5/8, it's blue point essentially where I had to turn, and I gotta say, that's a pretty decent little socket. I haven't used it, but just like bench impressions, I'm like, wow, not bad. So right here though, a little shallow 5/8. Typically I'm swinging this on 3/8 or half, but like I said, MTS, they make the friction peg go there, so we go there. That was really reasonable as well. I think that's actually on this ticket right here. That thing was $3.98, which is crazy. That's a big socket for quarter drive. It's one of those deals, again, that would be the sale price, so it was probably 20-25%, but I mean, that's a steal, a total steal in my opinion. Coming in next, you know what? I've got on this ticket some stuff here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to take this to work or if I'm going to leave it here. That remains to be seen. But what I have is from Proto. It is part number JS515. This is 1/2-inch drive extensions, but they're special. They are locking extensions. That's very important, the locking component. These would typically, what's weird, there's a 3/8 drive set, which is kind of how I stumbled upon purchasing these. I do not like my 3/8 extensions here, it turns out, at the house. And the Protos were like well north of 100, and then the 1/2-inch was not, and I was like, that's very odd. And they were $96.72. MSRP was the low price on Zoro. With the discount, it came to $72. And for a 1/2-inch drive impact extension of reputable quality, and to be locking, that is the big thing. I felt like that was a steal. I also wanted to feel these out. I'm assuming they're what I'm accustomed to, but I want to make sure before we sort of jump the gun and buy the 3/8. So these will be fun to play around with, I will tell you that. The main thing here, one of the big draws, particularly with this size, you think, oh, hey, I would use that, or, oh, mid-length guy is perfect. Right here. When I come in and I'm using an impact, I cannot tell you how many times. All right, I have to use like the wrench on one side and then the socket on the other. If I put the socket on the nut side, I'm working in frameworks here, right? You know, like channel iron or square tube or something. I cannot tell you how many times the socket gets stuck, and you kind of have to like extract it, you know, or like you pull your impact out, you know, and the socket stays. You're like, yeah, and then you have to reach up and it's nasty, and you have to kind of come in and bang down on the top or something crazy. This little hero right here is going to be very, very nice because it should be functional, and that's a big deal. It's functional. I have locking extensions that aren't functional anymore. That makes them kind of worthless. So what I've done, this slug right here, you're going to cry like, oh, that's brand new, you've never used it. That's correct. It's 1 5/16 inches, and I just don't have a need for it in anything that I'm aware of. But I grabbed it because it was the biggest of the easiest to get to Protos. That Proto set we brought in here was massive, and it's heavy. It's a thick wall. It's an awesome impact socket, but this thing is heavy. So what I'm going to do for the quick little bench demo here, we're going to line this up, get her seated, and see if we can't get this guy locked, and it is. So right here, can I pull that apart? No, I cannot. And if I hold it upside down, you got to realize, again, this is a chunk. Okay, hefty, and we are not dropping the socket. So that is what we want, is a functional locking mechanism. You kind of see how it works. If you keep your eyes right here, let me kind of zoom in on a black background, hopefully. There we go. So if you watch that, when I extract it, you kind of roll down. As it comes back in, this rolls up. That's literally all it is, but it's functional, and that's what matters. Lengths on these things, since I have no way of remembering this long ago, we're gonna drop back, and we're gonna clock in at 3. Realistically, if I could get a shorter one, I would be pretty content with that. Right here, we're gonna have a 5, and then this, it's either gonna be what? 8 or 10, right? Possibly 8, 10. So 10-inch overall. So 3, 5, and 10. It's kind of nice. I know some people are like, oh, you know, that's going to drive me crazy, my OCD. It's sort of nice if you mix extensions, whether they're fixed, wobble, locking, or impact and chrome. It's kind of nice to have assorted sizes. Obviously, if you have set things over and over again where you know exactly what you need, it's one thing. But for fluctuating circumstances, if you always had 3, 5, and 10, you know, what happens when you need the 6, right? You're having a couple of these two together with your socket, create situations you don't want to be in. Variety is the spice of life. Live a little bit. You know, your sockets don't have to have the exact same extension across all types. So that, again, I thought it was a pretty solid buy, especially for a high quality, made in America extension set, plus of course it is locking. Text message is right on cue. It's probably work related, and I'm not going to check that until this video is done. The knurling on these is epic. It is really good. You can actually feel it and catch on it, which is what I like. So pretty content with that. Again, I think they seem to be probably, you know, you got to realize I wasn't there when they were new, but I'm thinking this would be along the lines of what we had. So if that's true, these should last quite some time. Coming in next, where do we want to go? Let's just jump. I may have showcased this already. I really don't know. There's a chance it was, there's a chance it wasn't, but it's an Armstrong driver. This looks eerily similar to some other drivers, which I have not liked. Have not liked at all because the handles are too big. This one is not. This one is really well done. Obviously, you know, I didn't get my pick of the litter. This is what was available. I'm pretty sure this came from HJE. It's one of those like closeouts. They probably found some sweet honey hole. Some mom and pop shop that went out of business had a ton of these things in stock or something. This could be for hose clamps. I mean, who knows? You know, you got to think, like, was this like a plumbing supply store? Was it just a generic hardware store? Did this sit on the counter with a whole bunch of like similar shafted number 2 Phillips, and those all went and this didn't? Who knows? But it's a nice fat blade, and what that's good for is, of course, hose clamps. Kind of what I was thinking. And it's a funky little shaft. Typically, when you have this size of a driver, I believe it's a 1/4, as you can see conveniently thanks to Armstrong stampings, you're going to have a bit longer of a shaft, right? So that's kind of the appeal there. Plus, I want to say, I know this thing was well under $5. If memory serves me right, it was like dirt cheap. And if I could get other drivers, number one, the color scheme's awesome, but it's comfortable, it's functional, it's lightweight. It should be really good quality based on my experience with other Armstrong things. But right there, USA, there's the part number if anyone wants to. This was the other reason. It's all coming back. All right, 66 was a great year, but 440, that is a win. So, if you're a Mopar person like myself, anything, that's the whole reason. Fake 'em, fack 'em, whatever. You know, they're 440 wrenches. The reason those are appealing, it's because they have 440 in them, you know. You could literally take anything, you know, you could get Chinesium Amazon Company number 79, and if they had wrenches or tools with 440 in them, or 383 or 426, I'm all about that life. It just makes it that much more interesting to me. Some people do weird things, and it's like their wife or kids' birthdays, whatever. Me? Engine call-outs, that's where it's at. So this is realistically a really nice driver, and I wish they had other sizes. Who knows, maybe they'll come across a lot and acquire them at some point in time. If I've already showcased that, my apologies, but if I did, it's awesome, and there's another look at it. So, I also realized where I had that thing with some of this other stuff. I have my little Ghidorah. I did not know where I'd put that. This is the one you can't tell because it's a very clean brake, but we broke the tip off of it. So that was sad. I haven't tried to warranty that. I probably can't. I probably could, but I'd be lying, and I don't want to lie, even if it's beneficial to me. Whole conscious and moral thing, right? It's always screwing you up as you go through life. Sticking with what I believe was HJE. Let me see if I can find a price point on these, because I think it was pretty good too. Nope. Well, that's Lang, not Lisle. Where did these come from? Maybe this was Zoro? I don't really know. Like I said, you gotta know, like, some of this stuff has been here a while. But what we have is Lisle part number 35170. It's a two-piece pocket pry bar. These are kind of cool because they actually thought before they put the pocket clip. You know, like if you orient the pocket clip and the tip in a certain direction, you do one of two things. You stab yourself or you tear a hole in your pocket. With this one, you can note if this was the pocket right here, the tip would kick out to the side. Not going to tear your pocket, or has a less likelihood of doing it. And same thing here. So simple little thing there, much appreciated. We might make a standalone on these or something. I thought they were made in America, and it says here they're made in China. That's a bit of a buzzkill. But right there, if you're not familiar with that scene, you're lucky, but that's a little clip, and that looks like an easy one to get off. But there's a lot of clips and electrical connections these days in vehicles that look similar to that, and they're not easy to get off, and that's where these come in handy. My other go-to is, of course, this little Wera guy. It's the one from the Chisel driver sit that didn't get the striking cap, which still strikes me as crazy. But I've got one of these at work. I have the rest of them here. The one at work I'm starting to tear up. Ironically, it's not the striking cap and it's not the tip. It's like the plastic handle. And it's not like chemicals or anything crazy, although I did get a ton of hydraulic fluid on it today. But it's like down here. And as I drive that, this just isn't holding up to the abuse there. It lasted a little while, but certain situations when it catches, you will just pound it, and this is the weak link, that plastic. But this little guy right here, if you had a little clip that you could put on it, that'd be a pretty solid little pocket screwdriver / pry bar as well. So like I said, to save time, and since this is a train wreck, we'll look at that in detail some other time. Not going to take that to work or anything. I do not think we've showcased this. I think in one of my probably the last HJE video, I kind of went a little overboard. Should have saved some things back and didn't, but I told you there was a teaser of something that was inside, and it was this. And this didn't come in time for me to use it on what I wanted to, which was a bandsaw, setting it up. But this thing is stupid nice. I would assume they still have some. They had several different sizes. Price on this was $30. If you're like, well, hey, what is it, genius? Just show it to us. Boom. Right here. Some of you recognize the color scheme. Some of you now recognize the company name. Products Engineering Corporation. Machinist your choice, right? And, this is their part number 7105-266. This is a double square. And it says seconds. And you're thinking like, seconds? What crazy unit of measurement is this stupidity? You know, many of you are metric fans or aficionados. I am not. I still prefer fractional. It's what I grew up with. I'm not going to change. But right there, seconds, you think that's insane. You know, why would anyone meter something out in seconds? You know, that's just crazy. Is this like some time capsule or, you know, flux capacitor? What's the deal? What they mean by seconds isn't a unit of measurement. It's that this did not pass their quality control. And I must tell you, they must have some very rigorous quality control because this thing looks immaculate. There is one thing that they do, and I'll show you. I will show you what they do. If you're not aware of what this is, basically a double square, but it's got a level. And it's blue, which is cool. But you can basically, like, what I was going to do is square up the blade, okay? Because this was like the perfect size. I've got my two surfaces. You make your adjustments and tighten there. It's a really nice little tool. $30 does seem high if you're used to the cheap, trashy ones that aren't dependable, oftentimes aren't square, and usually break down in this mechanism if you actually use them to make non-square measurements. But here's the catch. I saw nothing like, I don't know what standards they must have, but this thing was square. It passed all my tests. It looked good. The only thing that's wrong is right here. And I don't know if there was some blemish there and they just kind of ground that out, but apparently the way they mark seconds and distinguish them between acceptable units to full retail price is they just kind of come in and grind something. And I don't know, like I said, if the blemish was literally there, if there is anything else, I don't know what it is. I haven't fully inspected the numbers since I was just like going for 90 degrees. Everything looks immaculate to me. This is just a stupid little neat double square. So right here, the way this one's broken down, you got 64ths, which is kind of crazy. You can sort of dial this in pretty good. You'll note this side is actually metric for all you metric people out there. So 10 to 150, 6 inches basically. Coming over here, you're going to have metric on the bottom scale, and then over here you're going to have 30 seconds. So basically you just come in, this is basically what I was doing, is just having 2 square edges. Cool little tool. And again, depending on what your idea of like precision machining is, you know, I'm not one to knock like hobbyist lathes and stuff because that's super cool, and a lot of times for what people are doing it's more than sufficient. But you know, and it's also a deal, not everybody can go buy some brand new like giant heavy lathe to throw in a place that they don't even have the footprint for. But where I don't like cutting corners, outside of like simple things like measuring the pitch of threads, or you know, like the length of a grub screw, or you know, I just want to have digital because I'm older in my eyes, you know, it's easier to see, or paint or plastic so you don't mar up a finish. If you're like actually turning something, you know, like if you wanted to see like what's the length of this shaft, okay, use your cheap digitals, it's fine, you're going to be close enough. Same thing like, hey, let's compare 19 different sockets, do it, it's fine. But if you're actually turning something down that is critical, you know, and it has to be, you know, within spec, or it's not going to function, or it's going to be scrapped and very expensive and costly, you need to invest in good measuring tools. That's just something I came up in it. That's the way I believe. That's the way I was taught. That's the way I'm going to stay. Not changing. And if you are like the home hobbyist doing that stuff, get the cheap lathe that you can afford, you know, the bench top that's actually there. Spend the time to dial it in. But please have good measuring instruments, because the worst thing you can do is, you know, come in. If something zeroes out and it's not repeating, you'll never machine anything, probably. It's insane, you know. Now, if it's consistently off, yes, you can account for that. But if it varies every time, it's infuriating. So, $30, believe me, I know there's cheap ones that are way less than that. There's sets of like probably 3 that are less than $30. But a good one, American made, that's going to last, that's a pretty good pickup. So if you're interested in those, I would bet they still have them. I think that goes back to May or something now. But I want to say that is possibly it for now. I think we're going to roll with that, because I've got something else I need to showcase so I can take it to work with me. Again, things are getting quite frantic. And that's where I'll leave that so we can wrap this up. But like I said, I really don't even know where all this stuff originated from. There should have been a 7/8 wrench. There should have been a multitude of other things that I don't know if I'll ever get or if they'll be canceled. There's 2 items that the sellers, just like I have communicated with them because I've never heard from them. And well, I did on a couple, and it was like, yeah, you'll see this stuff in about 2 weeks, and I've not. And, when 2 weeks turns into like 3.5 months and there's no response, and you send an email, at like the 2-month mark, and you're like, hey, just checking the status on this. If you have any updates, thanks for any insights, and you expect like an email back, even if it's like, hey man, we have no idea what's going on. You're not getting that. That's a little concerning, when they've got your money. So, yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in. I'll leave it at that. But, yeah, fantastic price on that 1.1 there for Wright. It's going to match our set. I do kind of have some regrets about not going satin. It's like more up my alley again. The Proto Challenger 500, which, sad story, the very best, which there's a ton of 15/16 wrenches at work, the very best, like the best polished chrome one that was left, it got torched the other day. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, the box end, I don't know who did it. No one's assumed responsibility when I inquired. But what was happening is, like, something seized, it's not coming off, and so the wrench was left there, and whoever was torching the bolt off didn't remember to get the wrench. And so it heated up, and it, like, it's gone right here. It's still, ironically enough, functional. Like, I used it, probably like 4 times since, just because, again, it's still super nice here. It's just right here on the box end, there's like a crack now, and there's the burn mark as well. It's super sad. There's so many other 15/16 wrenches that could have suffered that fate, and why it had to be the last, like, glorious example of what once was, I don't know. But I didn't shed a tear, but I was not gonna lie, I was pretty close. I was pretty close. Still sad about it, actually. But these are great looking wrenches. They reminiscent to me of the Challenger 500s, but I do kind of wish I'd done satin. Or black even. Black, I think, would be my complementary set, like secondary backup set. Which, I mean, not like lose those and have it. That's part 2, but like the main thing, there's many times I use 2 wrenches. Black and satin, man, they're really good. So anyway, we'll run with it. And, past that, yeah, just a random assortment of a little bit of everything. I really wish I had this 1.1 socket here, but it's 1 inch for better or for worse. The little 5/8 guy, I'll actually put that on our little MTS peg holder, get it populated. I probably need to check these text messages now so I don't get called. Like, going to work at 10 is not unheard of at nighttime here. So with that said, train wrecks, yes, I know, I'm sure, like I said, many of you can relate to this mess. Whether it's, like you're waiting on something super cool from Germany, you have some Japanese tool, you've been waiting on that Koken Zeal ratchet for forever. Maybe it's American made stuff, whatever it might be. These are trying times for impatient people. So yeah, hopefully, like I said, it was at least somewhat entertaining. We do have some cool stuff here. It's just a hodgepodge that doesn't really connect because the pieces that would have connected and made sense are not here, and once again, I don't know if they're ever coming here. So I'll have to snag a 7 7/8 wrench again. I might add some more if it's in stock. I'm going to be very, very leery of them not being in stock based on recent experiences. Yeah, that's about it. I'll leave it at that. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. And once again, I hope you enjoyed. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you subscribe, you ring the bell. You have all your back-ordered tools come on at the same time, and they're perfectly intact, and they're actually what you ordered, and not the wrong finish or the wrong size. YouTube just might notify you that we got new videos out every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, again, I do hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for next week's Trainwreck.